You know, we're all pretty used to AI that can spit out facts. But what if it could understand the incredibly complex connections between those facts? Well, that's the giant leap forward we're going to explore today with a really powerful new technique called GraphRAG. So to really get why this is such a huge deal, we've got to start with a fundamental problem. One that even the most advanced AI models, the ones you might use every day, are still grappling with. You've probably heard this term, right? Hallucination. It's that bizarre moment when an AI just confidently makes something up that's completely wrong. And why does this happen? Well, at their core, these models are just brilliant predictors, guessing the next most likely word based on all the data they were trained on. They don't have a built-in fact checker to, look things up and see if what they're saying is actually true.
To fix this, researchers came up with this awesome technique called retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG for short. The easiest way to think about it is like giving the AI an open book test. Instead of just relying on its memory, it gets to look up facts from outside documents before it gives you an answer. This grounds the AI in reality, in factual knowledge, and that makes its answers way, way more reliable. But, and this is a big but, this open book approach starts to hit a wall, especially when we're dealing with a totally different and honestly a much more complex type of data. Okay, so this slide just nails the difference perfectly. Over on the left, you've got your standard data, text, images, which an AI often just sees as separate, flat files. But look at the right, that's graph-structured data. It's not just a pile of items, it's a web of relationships. Think of a social network, or how molecules are structured, or even a super complex supply chain. It's all about the connections.
And this leads us to the absolute key question. Your standard RAG is fantastic at finding individual facts in a document. But what happens when the real answer isn't a single piece of information, but a hidden path of relationships? What if the connections are the real story? And this is exactly why the researchers behind this call graph's a golden resource for AI. It makes perfect sense, right? That whole nodes connected by edges structure is literally designed to capture and represent information about relationships. It's its whole purpose.
So if graphs are this golden resource, we obviously need a system that's built from the ground up to use them. And that, my friends, is GraphQRAG.
Okay, let's peek under the hood and see how this thing actually works. This diagram shows the whole pipeline. So first, the query processor figures out what you're really asking. Then, the retriever doesn't just look for keywords, it actually travels through the graph, tracing paths and connections. After that, the organizer takes all those findings and puts them into a logical story. And then finally, the generator uses that organized information to give you a coherent, accurate answer. It's so much more sophisticated than just a simple search.
And the result of all that? You get an AI that can tackle questions that would just completely break a standard search engine. It's not just finding words on a page anymore. It's actually following a trail of breadcrumbs through a complex web of connections.
Let's make this super concrete with an example from drug discovery. A standard search might find some documents about the disease and other documents about the gene, but it's going to have a really hard time connecting them through a specific drug. GraphRAG, on the other hand, can literally walk the path from the disease to the drug that treats it and then check if that same drug also targets that specific gene. I mean, that's a total game changer.
Okay, so now that we've got the big picture, let's get a little more granular. To really see why GraphRAG is such a leap forward, we're going to break down the 3 fundamental ways it's different from the RAG we're used to.
All right, so the first big difference is all about the kind of information each system is built to handle.
So standard RAG on the left there, it usually deals with pretty uniform stuff, like a big block of text or a grid of pixels in an image. But GraphRAG over on the right has to juggle this huge variety of formats all at the same time. You've got individual data points, the links between them, and even entire clusters of connected info. It's a much more complex world to navigate.
Now for the second key distinction. This one is all about how the data, how it talks to itself.
With standard RAG, data is often chopped up into these isolated chunks that have no idea the other chunks even exist. But in GraphRAG, every single piece of information is connected. This is huge. It allows the AI to do what's called multi-hop reasoning, which is basically like jumping from one clue to the next, following the trail of connections to build a way more complete picture of what's going on.
And the third and final difference. This one really gets to the heart of why GraphRAG has to be so incredibly smart and adaptable.
A standard RAG model kind of has a general one-size-fits-all understanding of language that works pretty well across the board. But with graphs, the meaning of a connection is everything, and it changes depending on the context. A connection in your social network means friendship. A connection in a biology paper means a chemical bond. You just can't use the same approach for both.
And this example just makes it all click, doesn't it? Imagine an AI is helping you write an email. To make sure the content is relevant, it might look at other emails in the same conversation. That's a proximity thing. But to get the tone right, it might need to look at emails from other managers in the company, people who have a similar role, even if they're not in this conversation. GraphRAG can understand both of those different kinds of relationships.
So, it's pretty clear this isn't just some small technical upgrade. This is a whole new way for AI to see and reason about the world. So what does this future, a future built on relationships, actually look like?
And look, this isn't some pie-in-the-sky idea. It is happening right now. This chart shows the number of research papers being published, and you can see that GraphRAG is just an exploding field. The number of publications is shooting up, especially in areas like knowledge graphs. That tells you there's huge momentum and real investment behind this idea.
And the potential applications, oh man, they're massive. We're talking about speeding up drug discovery, spotting complex cyber threats before they happen, building recommendation systems that actually get you, and uncovering sophisticated fraud rings. Basically, anywhere that hidden connections and relationships matter, GraphRAG has a huge role to play.
And that really brings us to our final thought. For years, we've been so focused on teaching AI individual facts. But the real world, our world, it's built on relationships. So the big question now is this: what new frontiers, what incredible problems could we solve if AI could finally understand that intricate web of connections, just as well as it understands the facts themselves?